Michellie Jones needs absolutely no introduction unless you've been living under a rock for the last 30 years. She kicked off her triathlon career in 1990 and won not one, but two ITU Triathlon World Championships in 1992 and 93. She also won the Xterra Triathlon World Championships in 1996 and won a silver medal in the 2000 Sydney Olympic Games. She then decided to go long and became the Ironman World Champion in just her fourth full-distance Ironman in 2006. I first met MJ when she was guiding for Katie Kelly, an Australian para-triathlete. And as her guide, they won gold in the 2015 ITU World Championships and gold in Rio 2016 Paralympic Games. She has an Order of Australia medal. I mean, what bling does she not have? She's now the head coach of University of California, San Diego's collegiate program and has newly joined the Tri-Dot family. I did wee a little bit in my pants when she agreed to jump on the podcast with me today, but I'm so excited for you to hear this conversation. Welcome to the Triathlon Nutrition Academy podcast, the show designed to serve you up evidence-based sports nutrition advice from the experts. Hi, I'm your host Taryn, accredited practicing dietitian, advanced sports dietitian and founder of Dietitian Approved. Listen as I break down the latest evidence to give you practical, easy to digest strategies to train hard, recover faster and perform at your best. You have so much potential and I want to help you unlock that with the power of nutrition. Let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast, MJ.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so pumped to talk to you, MJ, and I have your attention to myself for a change, and I'm actually a little bit nervous about spending some time with you today.
You know, I get that a lot, especially from the athletes that I coach. They are all like, well, you know, when we first met you, we were like really worried. And then now that we've met you, we realize that you're actually just like one of us. I'm going, exactly.
Yeah, so down to earth. I had the honour of hanging out with you a little bit when you were a guide for Katie Kelly, but
yes,
you know, that was Katie Kelly's time really, so we didn't get to talk much. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun 30 minutes.
Jam-packed. So what I wanted to jump onto the podcast with you today to talk about is the concept of overtraining, because triathletes are very good at going hard all the time. And I definitely know I was guilty for that when I trained. But it is really important to have this periodized approach to training. And I always talk about a periodized approach to nutrition. But how do we actually, put easy, light, rest, recovery days into our programming and not feel guilty for taking that time off?
I think that's the hardest thing for any athlete that's super motivated. And then you get a triathlete and, we're definitely probably more A-type personalities. And then sometimes you fall in this belief that more is better. And I think I was lucky from a very young age that my coaches taught me early that it's better to be a little undertrained than overtrained. Not to say that I've never been overtrained, because I can tell you I've been overtrained like several times. But I was always brought up short and sweet, recover. And there wasn't really a lot of people who had that mentality. And it is hard when you're seeing everyone else training a certain way and then you're training a different way. And you definitely have to stay true to what you believe, but also be very, very focused on what you're doing and not worrying about what others are doing, and know that you're on the path that you need to be on the path.
Yeah, blinkers on.
You can't control what other people are doing. You can only control what you do.
Yeah, totally. That's right. We get so waylaid by what others are doing, don't we? Particularly I see that happen, and I was like guilty for this too, on race day morning, and you do weird things on race day because you are second guessing yourself. I had an Ironman athlete suddenly change her whole Ironman plan on the day because she saw a more experienced triathlete do that. And I'm like, why would you do that to yourself?
But I mean, that's staying true to the path that you've been on, right? It's like when you sort of like take a different path, it's like at the wrong time. And like we all fall into that. And I think it's just important to understand it's like, this is what you train for. This is the path that you're on. Don't go off the path. You can do that maybe and discuss that later on, but, it's super important to stay on that path. And, I talk a lot about that, like even nutrition-wise. It's like, what did you do in training? That's what you're going to do in a race. And it's constantly staying on that path and not changing direction unless something horrible is going along, and then you'd have to revisit it. That the point of having a training plan is to have that path that you know that you're going to follow. And that's the same, that nutrition plan that you have. It's like everything that you did from day one of whatever your focus is, it's like you follow that path, because we're all creatures of habit, and so is your stomach. Your stomach takes, 7 days to adjust to something that's new. So,
amen, sister.
Yeah, it's super important that, you stick with what you know. And I always tell people, I think the one thing, and it comes across the board, I think, for everything. What's the one thing you're going to want if you take it away? That thing that you took away. So I'm a big believer in moderation, and that's in nutrition, that's in training. It's like never go either end of the spectrum. You just want to be right there in the comfort zone.
So that leads nicely into my first question for you, which is kind of what's your philosophy on these easy, light, rest, recovery days?
Yeah, well, rest is training as well. And I think I've been caught up, you've been caught up in like more. And then, like as I said earlier, it's better to be a little undertrained than overtrained, because overtraining is the most horrible thing you can go through, because, your body is very good at protecting itself, and it'll kick in the cortisol hormone, and you'll think you're going hard and you're not going hard, but you think you're going hard because that's what the cortisol hormone is trying to do, but protect itself. So my philosophy is there's a reason for every session. It's not just because you got to go out and do something. It's like it has to have a reason. And, easy sessions lead to better sessions because it's giving you a chance to recover. And, those harder sessions, you need recovery sessions, so then you can move to the next level and keep progressing. And I talk a lot about right now in the off season here in the US, it's like, you got to get a little out of shape so you can get back into shape so you can go to the next level.
Yeah, that's where the magic happens, right?
Yeah, and I think I was lucky. I had a conversation once with Greg LeMond, who's won the Tour de France 5 times, and he sort of got me on this program a little bit later in my short course career. Is 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off. So I did utilise that for quite a long time in my short course career. And I do get a little bit lazy in terms of my philosophy sometimes when I'm training right now, because I'm like, I'm not a pro triathlete. I can do whatever I want. It doesn't, So when I was it's like, definitely had a bigger impact probably when I was a professional. But now as I get older, I'm like, you know what? I need to take a few easy days. I'm usually pretty good at when my program says go easy, I go easy. And I think that's the big difference between a lot of professionals and a lot of age group athletes. It's like the easy and the hard, there's a big difference. For a professional, for an age grouper, it's too close. And I'm always telling my athletes, slow down. This is a zone 2. Zone 2 is you can look around. You don't really have to worry about your breathing, how your muscles are feeling. You're going to want to eat properly after you finish, compared to if you went too hard. You're probably thinking more about your form, your heart rate, that your muscles are getting a little tighter, and you're probably not going to want to eat straight away.
That's awesome, MJ. So your philosophy really is underdone is better than overdone, which is kind of refreshing to hear. So what does it actually look like for somebody's program? How often should they be resting? And what does a light rest session actually look like, so that people that are out there listening, they can understand or know maybe whether they're overtraining or if they've got things in check?
Yeah, so I think the big thing is what sort of cycle are you on? So for me in particular, I'm usually that 4-week, 3 weeks on, 1 week a little bit more recovery. But then within that week, there's also a recovery pattern. So normally on Mondays, we work a little bit more on strength endurance and maybe a little bit of threshold swim work. And then on Tuesdays, I actually like to do a little intensity on the run on Tuesdays. But then on Wednesdays, I like to give my athletes at least 24 hours. So they would run in the morning and then do an interval, maybe sometimes above threshold session in the evening. So that way they've had more than 24 hours to recover. And another reason why I like to do that, because I always find that running definitely has a higher level of muscular fatigue that it leaves you. So by doing the run intensity first and then switching over to the bike intensity over 24 hours later, I like that sort of philosophy, because then I'll have my athletes sort of swim on Wednesday as well. So they get that extra recovery. So basically Monday would be a swim bike, Tuesday usually a run with some functional strength, and then Wednesday it's like a swim bike and a short run off the bike. But like I like them to swim to recover from the run, and then just add a little bit of intensity to the bike. And sometimes it's below threshold, sometimes it's at threshold, sometimes it's above threshold, depending on where they are in the season. And then Thursday would be a recovery, very easy run. And then Friday, it's maybe a little bit more intensity on the swim. And depending on each individual athlete, it could be a little bit of tempo on the bike, or it could be an easy spin. And then the weekends, during the off season, I'm like, go and have a coffee ride, chill out.
That's the best kind.
Yeah. And, in the race season, it's like, okay, what's our focus? It might be a little bit more interval driven. It might be a terrain driven. It might be a group ride, because some people love that group environment, and it's important to keep people mentally fresh as well. And then Sundays, I'm a little bit of a traditionalist. That would be a longer run. But, I also like adding a little bit of interval work to that, but like not ridiculously hard, just a little bit of turnover, because my coach always used to say a little bit of turnover is better than no turnover at all. Then sometimes it's like you got to have a day off on Friday, or sometimes it's a Sunday, depending where it fits into each and everyone's workload, as well as their regular workload, not just their training workload, but their real life workload.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on as age groupers. You've got to hold down a job and probably have family commitments as well. So there's definitely no professional triathlete out there that you've got to do all the things as well.
Yeah, the other philosophy you can follow too is doing that long run in the middle of the week. You could also do it that way as well, and then, do a little bit more interval work then on Sunday for your run.
Mm.
And the other way too, it's like if my athletes are in the middle of a Ironman program, their next run would be 10 days later, just to give that little bit extra recovery. So it's not like a long run every 7 days, but when they hit their biggest mileage week, it would be 10 days before they do another, like a shorter, longer run.
And is that just to give them a little bit more time to recover, to go long again and absorb that actual training? Exactly.
And that's one of my favorite things, the absorption of your training. Just let it happen. And the other thing, it's like, let the fitness come. When COVID hit, I think that was a good learning experience for a lot of people, because we didn't know when there was going to be a race. We didn't know what was happening. And I just said to my athletes, I go, just go back down as your intensity level at a zone 3. Because that way you can step up pretty quickly to a zone 4 if you need to, but it's not like the recovery you need for a zone 3 is completely different. So basically, like all through the pandemic, it's like, just chill out a little bit. You can do a little interval work, but let's like drop it back a little bit. So it's a little uncomfortable, but it's not ridiculously hard, because otherwise, what do you use that fitness for? Because at some point you burn it out.
Yeah.
You just can't keep going and going and going. So, and, even for the off season, I tell people the same, because it's like the off season, there's a reason why we have an off season.
What is this elusive off-season you talk about, MJ?
Yeah, it's a chance for you to mentally recover as well as physically. And that doesn't mean you don't have to stop like doing some intervals, but have a think about what the purpose of an interval is and where it is in your preparation. And again, it's like for a long time, my athletes sort of keep a little more intensity up on the bike just because there's less wear and tear on their bodies.
Yep.
Yeah. Take the time to do some other stuff, take the time to work on some of your weaknesses as well. And in terms of weaknesses, it's like your functional strength. Take the time to really make yourself strong in that area, so that when you come to getting ready for a race, it's like less chance of injury, because now you've become a much more functionally strong, because, you can be strong, but you've got to be functionally strong.
I love that you've got some strength in your programming, because it's something that a lot of triathletes don't think about. That's just another thing, right? It's a whole nother discipline that you've got to try and fit into your week, but I love that you've got it in there.
Well, I was going to say, the one thing that like I try to like steer people away from is like lifting too heavy. There's like a couple of different theories with that. It's just my personal experience. It's like, I want you to be functionally strong, but I don't want you to do such a load then that's increasing your risk of injury. And I know there's like that theory of pushing like a lot of weight, lifting big. That would be nice, but when you're looking for functional strength, that's very different to what I believe they're talking about, because it's important to be able to have your joints be able to sustain the load that you're trying to put on them, and then sustain it for whatever that purpose is. So to me, it's like, don't go too heavy. Definitely work on your weaknesses. It's important to put it in the schedule. I like to do it. I think 2 times a week is plenty with all the swim, biking and running. And, you know, if you're doing the strength work a little bit with hill work on the bike and the run, and then doing a little bit of strength work in the pool as well, it's like now you've sort of covered like all the areas that you need.
So many good tips there, MJ. I love that you've got people to kind of chill out a little bit through the pandemic, because we know that training really hard is not great for your immunity too. And so a lot of triathletes were like, cool, I've got all this time, I'm just going to go smash myself. But really, we just need to be a little bit more protective and focus on, building a base, right? Still use this time to your advantage. And hopefully people have come out from that pandemic time a bit stronger and better athletes as a result.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you know, it's interesting you bring that up, because immunity is like a huge thing for endurance athletes, because we're always suppressing our immune system, right? We tend to do that a lot. So it's like, that's why the recovery process is super important. And, you know, you don't just do it through better sleep. You don't just do it through resting. You do it through nutrition as well. It's like, you know, when you finish those hard sessions, you've got a time window of when you need to replenish and refuel. And, you know, a lot of people are so afraid of carbs and they forget that's part of the recovery process, along with protein. No, like that's huge as well, because that's like building the muscles. But, you know, there's a reason why we need all these essential nutrients as well.
Yeah, most triathletes suck at their recovery nutrition, don't they? And the carb-phobic mindset is just, feel like it's peaking, but my whole passion is to try and get people to do some of these fundamentals first, because we're so focused on the little shiny objects and the 1%ers like beetroot juice and the latest supplements, but people then suck at recovery nutrition, where we know that has like the best bang for your buck around your training, right? What you do in and around your training is where you're going to actually maximize your performance. It's not what you do once every 3 months on race day.
Exactly. And I also talk about like, you're a high performance machine.
Yeah.
What happens if you had like a fancy sports car and you stopped putting oil and gas or petrol in your car? You would stop. I tell people that all the time. It's like, you know, you're a high performance machine, so you need to treat yourself like a high performance machine. And they're like, yeah, but I'm just the back of the packer. I go, I don't care. You know, it's like recovery is needed, whether you're an elite level athlete or you're the last person across the line. You know, nutrition is what fuels you. Otherwise, you stop running.
I love that you've got that philosophy too, because your body's the only thing you've got, right? It's got to last you until you're in your 90s, maybe over 100 these days with the health technology that we've got. But you're right. I use that analogy. I'm glad that it's shared. I tell people that they put the cheap fuel in, and, you know, would you do that if you if you think about your body as like a Tesla or a Ferrari or whatever it is that you resonate with car-wise? Are you a triathlete sick of fumbling around in the dark with your nutrition? Is nutrition the missing link in helping you reach your goals? And do you want to maximize your training efforts and level up your performance? Of course you do. Come and join me for free at Fuel School. It's a free 3-day live and online nutrition training week. And I've designed it to give you the nutritional edge in 2024 and lay the foundation of your day-to-day fueling and race nutrition. It's on the 14th to the 16th of January, 9 a.m. Brisbane time, so Australian Eastern Standard Time every day, which is 3 p.m. PST, 5 p.m. CST, and 6 p.m. EST on the 13th to the 15th of January. To register, head to fuel.school. Yep, www.fuel.school. Whether you're a seasoned triathlete or just starting your nutrition journey, this free event is your opportunity to learn from an advanced sports dietitian and triathlon nutrition specialist and transform the way you approach your nutrition for 2024. Fuel.school, it's free. I'll see you there.
And then the other thing I think people forget is like when they're sick, when they're feeling run down, that's what a coach is there for, right? To make the hard decisions for you. You don't have to make those decisions. Hey, coach, I didn't sleep well last night. Hey, coach, I'm not feeling good. They're the ones that sort of give you the confidence, right, to make those good decisions. It's like I always tell my athletes, okay, when you're not feeling good, give yourself 48 hours. And then if you start to feel a little bit better after that, then I have the 20 plan.
What's the 20 plan?
You can go do something for 20 minutes.
Love it. Love it.
If you feel okay with that, the next day maybe you can do the 30 plan.
Oh, love it.
And then the 40 plan. And then after that, you're pretty much back at it. So,
yeah, just a nice step back into training. Most people are like, I missed 48 hours of training, so I've got to catch that back up. But, yeah, good to recognise that you just need to slowly go back.
Yeah, or they go, God, I missed that session, now I have to do it. I go, walk away.
Yeah.
You can't live in the past, you can only live in the future. So you got to keep moving forward, not backwards.
Great advice. I've seen a few kind of stress injuries, and you look back at their training program and you see where they've caught up a long run that they've missed, and so they've jammed them really close together, and you're like, idiot, why did you do that? But triathletes, we don't have this knowledge and expertise like people like you do. So it's important to recognize
I still do dumb stuff. But like you learn from it. It's like this is all the learning that I've had over the many years that I've done triathlon, and I'm like, I still do silly stuff, but like even myself, I need a coach. I need someone who's like, not so close to it. And every now and again, I'm like, Michellie, if I was coaching you, what would I say? So sometimes, take a step back and go, you know what? And that's the other thing. I'm like, when you hurt yourself, stop, evaluate straight away. Don't turn it into an injury that could be a couple of days. And now it's like 6 months, 12 months down the road, and you're still dealing with it. It's like, there's pain for a reason. Don't ignore it.
Yeah, great advice. So to finish us up, what does overtraining look like? How could somebody identify if they were overtraining or not?
Well, for one, you're probably going to get a little grumpy.
Isn't that just sleep deprivation and hungriness?
Well, yeah, they will.
That too.
Not the hunger one, but definitely you probably lose a little bit of your appetite more than any, as well. You might get some night sweats. It's like your muscle recovery, you're always sore.
Yeah, or any cramping, like people that cramp overnight when they're asleep. Is that a sign of overtraining?
Yeah, for me, it definitely is, because it means that, for one, possibly you're also dehydrated, and, your magnesium and your potassium levels aren't adjusting, and that could be overtraining as well. And, it's and maybe, you're not quite as motivated. You sort of like justify sometimes, why you're doing something, or sometimes it's like, I've just got to do it because the program says that I have to do it. And, then of course there's the metrics, right? When you wake up, what's your resting heart rate? What does your stress loads say? What is your score telling you? There's so many things that you can do. It's like, but, ultimately it's like you've got to understand that there are signs that you are overtraining, and you have to know what those signs are. Because if you don't know and you're new to something, it's like, oh, my muscles are sore because I've never done this before. Or I'm sweating last night because I didn't have the AC on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. It's like, if you don't have the knowledge to be able to understand what your body's actually telling you, and that's why it's important to be educated as well, and learn by doing your research, talking to other athletes, having a great coach, listening to good podcasts.
Yeah.
One of my athletes, she always listens when she's working. She listens to every podcast that she can listen to. And then every week it's like, Michellie, what about this? What about that? And I'm like, yep, I love it. Because, she's becoming informed. She's making sure she's doing her research and like learning a lot about what's out there in the world. And then we have a chat then about how that relates to her as an athlete. Because that's the other thing, it has to relate to you because it may not.
You have to get her to listen to this podcast for all of her triathlon nutrition goodness.
She will. She's already said, please send it.
Oh, amazing. That's some really good advice, and I think it highlights the need to have that discussion with your coach too. Like if you're feeling unsure or you don't feel right, like speak up. There's no bravado in pushing yourself to the nth degree because, like MJ said, maybe undertraining is a little bit more effective than being overtrained and slogging your guts out.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing about having a coach. If you want to get the most out of that relationship, communication is key.
And accountability, right? Someone just to give you a kick in the butt if you need it or to tell you to stop being stupid if you need that too.
Exactly. One of my mottos for one of my athletes that we came up with is because she would, like, when she didn't want to do anything, she'd come up with all these excuses and we'd be like, I can't talk right now, doing fast girl shit.
Oh, funny.
So, yeah, that's her new race motto, that she just can't talk because she thinks she's slow and we're like, you're not slow. And she thinks everyone's faster than her. And I go, they're not.
Yeah, blinkers on. So, stay in your own lane.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for letting me pick your brain, MJ, on your whole philosophy around overtraining. I think it's really good to highlight. I know that you're really passionate about athletes not overtraining and have given some really practical tips around like what a week could look like and then also some ideas to look out for to see if overtraining is a problem for you or not. But, reach out to your coach. Figure out what's going on. Make sure you've got a nice program that's got some rest. Maybe you've got an off season. We tend to not have an off season here in Australia. Everyone just goes hard all the time.
Well, California, we have a little bit of a nice winter as well. So, it's definitely sometimes people get caught up in that. It is important.
Yeah, and then focus on something different for a change. So if people want to find you, MJ, what's the best way to find you?
I have a few social media channels, so you can always just search my name. And then I have a website as well called giddyupmultisports.com.
Awesome. I'll link those in the show notes. And thank you so much for joining me.
All right. Thank you so much.
Phew. Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Triathlon Nutrition Academy podcast. I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions or want to share with me what you've learnt, email me at podcast@dietitianapproved.com. You could also spread the word by leaving me a review and taking a screenshot of you listening to the show. Don't forget to tag me on social media at dietitian.approved so I can give you a shout out too. If you want to learn more about what we do, head to dietitianapproved.com. And if you want to learn more about the Triathlon Nutrition Academy program, head to dietitianapproved.com/academy. Thanks for joining me, and I look forward to helping you smash it in the fourth leg. Nutrition!